they always wrote one line, faces face this way, the next line, the faces read that way. Now, let's go back to the way we read. When we read psychologically, now I'm talking about the breakdown of the methodology of education. Then, please, if you have questions, because this I'm just starting something. And I'm in Baltimore, and I'm not going to be here that much longer, so every moment counts to me. So that when we read what? Right to left. Then we pause. Go back. I'm sorry, as you were, left to right. We pause, go back, left to right. Now, psychologically, the way your neurons are connected, when you stop at the end of that line, you break the neuronal connections in your brain. In fact, at times you could almost forget what you just had. You ever read and you got to go back and read again?
Yeah.
Well, that's why that happened, because there was a break, and in that split-second break, it allowed your mind to drift somewhere else. Left to right, left to right. It would be your left to right, left to right, left to right. Every time you stop, you break. Split seconds are eternity in the brain. So that it may be a split second to us, but as it relates to what you're doing, you're breaking your consciousness at that point. Now let's go back to our ancestors that wrote horizontally. When they read, let's say the faces were facing this way, the top line, they would read this way. And then they would read this way. And then they would read this way, and this way, and this way. So there was a continuity. That was holistic brain. It's right in front of us. But nobody stops to teach us the genius that it takes when you're reading Medunetta. Let me tell you something else about Medunetta. A picture speaks 1,000 words. A symbol speaks 1,000 pictures. A picture speaks 1,000 words. A symbol speaks 1,000 pictures. When you're looking at a symbol in Medunetta, I'll give you an example. The Ankh. We say the Ankh means life. Let's go beyond. This and that, let's go beyond. The Ankh represents immortality, eternity, forever and a day, never ending. An Ankh is not just life. See, a life is an English word that limits us. Malcolm was right. English is the language of life. Because you can say something and not mean it. Like in New York, for instance, there's a borough, B-O-R-O-U-G-H, borough, which means I'm from the Bronx, there's Manhattan, Staten Island, Queens, Brooklyn, right? Then there's a borough, B-U-R-R-O, that's the animal. Then there's the borough, that's a whole, B-U-R-R-O-W. So I could say to you, I'm going to the borough. Well, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. Because you don't know the context in which I'm speaking. I could say I'm going to that donkey or the borough. I could be going to a borough of the Bronx. Or I could be going to the borough where the hole is. In most ancient languages in Africa, okay, Africa is a continent. It's not a country. And there's a lot of diversity. It's in the inflection of your voice that gives you the context of the word. See, we have homonyms, homophones, same sound, borough, same sound, but spelled differently. But from an ancient tradition, from an African tradition, they used the inflection of the voice to tell you which context they were talking about. So if I was talking about the animal, I might say, if I should take English and apply it to this African thought, I would say, borough. If I was talking about the whole, I might say, borough. You see, so it's the inflection of my voice that gives you the context.
Right.
So that I can't lie to you. And lying, I mean, when Malcolm said it, he said it flipped. But actually, it's true. You can say things in English and the person listening to you don't know a word you're saying. In fact, you could tell continuous untruths and you have flocks of people that will believe you. And if you don't believe me, believe 45. Cause that boy, Any questions, family? You know what I'm talking about. I ain't gonna spend too much time on that. Come on, we know what's going on here, family. That's what the indigenous people meant when they said the pale-face speak with forked tongue.
That's right.
He is what my mama say is a congenital lie. You lie for the sake of lie. The moment your mouth open, you just lie. Every time I see we talk, we say he lied. So you know something? We got to get it on. Take this opportunity to work our show. Take this opportunity to come back to the temple. Take this time to make sure you use kamose, shea, butter. Meltrek should be in every one of our homes. We already got one for our grandson. Those DVDs should be in every one of our homes. And every time they come up with a new one, we ought to buy that too. Yes, my sister.
Okay, so...
And my wife liked that shit. What did she say? It's real. And then she said it's real. Because I heard her say other things. Because she's here, she tell me later. She wouldn't say, she'd tell me later, and that ain't happening. Or she just wouldn't say anything. So she came right over and told me how nice it was. So I'm telling y'all, y'all need to use that shit about it.
Thank you.
I'm your advertisement.
So, you mentioned earlier about voting, and some people have like this, there's two sides to that story, especially when it comes to people of color. They believe like, my vote doesn't matter and all that stuff like that. And usually what I say is, well, if you started out not being able to vote until like the 15th Amendment, then you had the literacy test, and now in some states, if you're a felon, you can't vote. And that means that your vote is obviously important. So some people will say, well, the Electoral College and all that stuff, and it doesn't make a difference because whatever. So my belief is like, you guys stay local, vote for your the Electoral College, vote for your mayor, your county councilwoman or county councilman, and the county executive, blah, blah, blah. But what's your take on that, I guess?
I agree with you absolutely. All politics, my sister, is local. That's one of the things. So we come out for the president or the governor. All politics is local. And what's important is for us to understand, first and foremost, let's be honest. The people who run, they're not looking out for us. They could care very little for us. But they do care if we have a voice that can make a difference. We have to look at voting as a strategy. Don't look for no friends. Dr. Clark has a DVD that I encourage everybody to go to. The title of it is, You Ain't Got No Friends. Check it out. We have to strategize this. We have to go beyond the emotion of this. They don't mean us any good. But if you go into the voting block knowing that, you're not voting thinking they're going to do something, and then you get discouraged when they don't. The fact is that voting is a tool that you can use. And as you so appropriately said, my sister, if they stopped you from voting, if they're trying to introduce measures to stop you from voting, the vote must be important. Otherwise, they wouldn't stop it. The same way they stopped you from reading. If they didn't, like I would never write a rule that said dogs can't read. Because I'm not worried about dogs reading. I don't think that they have the ability. Okay? You only put in laws when you fear the result if the law is not in the books.
Right.
So that I have never not voted. I turned 18 the year that 18-year-olds could vote. I was in the military at the time. I did an absentee ballot. I have never not voted. I understand why people say what they say. But I'm not looking at it. Again, it goes back to the this or that. It goes back to understand that when I go to war, I bring everything that was on the table, including the table. Because I might have to hit somebody inside there with the table. I bring everything with me. Nothing is left on the table. Malcolm was right. By any means necessary. And part of our arsenal is the vote. We have to look at it as a strategy. See, we're looking for... Here's one we have to understand. As African people, we have to understand the difference between a friend, an enemy, and an ally. We get confused. Put the friend aside. That's somebody that you know, family, trusted, proven. During World War II, the United States, the enemy of the United States was Germany and Japan. The allies were Russia, right, and China. Now look, after the war, Germany and Japan became our friends, and China and Russia became our enemies. As an African people, sometimes we think that our allies are our friends, and they're not. Your ally can become more of an enemy after the issue has been achieved, after you've won. The person that you allied yourself with could become more of an enemy to you than the enemy you both combined in order to defeat. Right. We tend to hang on to people too long. We tend to believe that they're still our friend. We mix up being an ally and a friend. They're not our friend. They were our allies until we were able to achieve our goal. After that, hey, we're good to go. You show me what you are. If you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, you better back up. You see? Voting. I'm speaking to me, and I'm speaking to what I see in the future. I say, don't believe a word I say. I never speak for you to believe me. My only function is to make us think. I'm not even trying to get us out of the box. People say, you know, I'm trying to get you to think out of the box. I'm trying to get you to realize that there is no box. Because if you think of a box, if I get out the box and other people are in the box, we still can't see each other. But if I move away and realize that there is no box, I can always see you and you can always see me, so I can always communicate with you. There is no box. This is an illusion. They have set up an illusion that we have bought into. And when someone wishes to oppress you, there are three things they do. They give you a myth. They get you to believe the myth. And then you form the habit of believing the myth. And while it's the last form that's always the hardest to get rid of. Because we know it's a myth. We don't believe it anymore. But we have become comfortable living the myth.
Right.
Because once we step and do what we got to do, we're going to realize something. The zone of development is when I teach, I used to teach a course on Malcolm X. And one of the things that I wanted to explain about Malcolm, I just didn't want to do Malcolm, I wanted to look at certain things about Malcolm. Malcolm lived, it's called the zone of development. And the zone of development, like for instance, if I could just draw it here, I used to do it on the board. This area over here is where you all feel very comfortable. Everything you do, you're comfortable. You can do it with your eyes closed, no problem. Then you get to a point that if you cross over, you are now in an uncomfortable zone.
Right.
Because now you're being asked to do or be or say something that you're not comfortable with. Life is meant to be that you move out of your comfort level into this zone of development where you're uncomfortable. But in that uncomfort, in your doing it frequently, you become comfortable. So now you got to look to your next area where you're uncomfortable. So you should feel, if I'm comfortable, I'm uncomfortable. I should always be developing myself, always pushing. In football, it's called fourth quarter drills. When you get to the point where you ain't got no energy, Sifu, you know what I'm saying? When you get to the point where you can't handle it, you are out of breath, but something charges you up, that energy, that spirit takes you over, and you do things I'm shocked.
Yes, sir.
Other people will tell you, I didn't think you had it in you. But you did. So you got to keep pushing yourself constantly. Don't be comfortable. Be uncomfortable being comfortable. And it becomes important to go back to your point, my sister. This is the way I answer questions. To me, voting is extremely important. It is a tool, and it is something could be a tool or a weapon. When that brother was doing that fire, I heard my brother say, I'm going to get out of the way. Because fire can be a weapon. But that fire just cooked a great meal.
Sure.
It's not what it is that matters. It's how you use it. A tool is a weapon, and a weapon is a tool. And so what we have to start to understand is everything works. Again, it goes back to something that you said, Brother Asar, yesterday. You said it a number of ways in different times. What has happened to us, we all suffer from this thing called enslavement that we've been through. We all, by matter of degree, myself included, by matter of degree, we still are coming up out of this. And what's important to understand is to honor and to respect our people. And remember a time when you weren't where you were. So don't get cute with yourself. Because we've all been developing at some point. So when I come before my people, I come with a sense of understanding that the blessing that I've had in my life was to be exposed. First of all, I was named Booker T Coleman, so I could never escape the African American culture. When Dr. Clark first met me, before he gave me that homework assignment, he said, "Hey, Booker T, you're going to be a great teacher one day." When I was growing up, I had a friend from Puerto Rico who his family practiced Santeria. What's interesting is I was introduced to Africa by my neighbors from Puerto Rico, not from my African American community. I was introduced to African American culture in family, but when the family practiced Santeria and I used to go over to their house and they'd be dancing and I saw las siete potencias, the 7 powers. to the Moors,